This is my dining room. You can see I have what looks like a 7 foot by 2.5 foot oak plank on top of two plastic sawhorses. It's a relatively large space, and I think it'd look a lot nicer with a nice big table. I have some 4x8 sheets of maple plywood and MDF in my shed. I think I'm going to go with one sheet of maple plywood on top, and I'm going to use the MDF for some braces underneath, and then put some maple edge banding around the whole thing. And I have some 4x4 Douglas fir posts that I might shave down for the legs. I have plenty of room around here, so I think it'll fit pretty nice. I have a few more chairs, and I'm very excited to get a larger space to eat and work in here. So these are most of the materials. These are the 4x4 Douglas fir posts. I'm going to cut them down a bit more. The faces, you can just take a random orbit sander or a belt sander to them to clean them off quick. I have a joiner, so I'm going to joint them down so they have sharp edges, and then take a little bit off the edges, but it should look nice. Whatever you want to do. And I have these big log screws here. I think I'm going to center drill the legs and put these giant log screws down the legs, and hopefully that should give us enough rigidity with some angle brackets. If not, we can add some shelf brackets and it shouldn't be too much of a nuisance. You will need some drywall screws of various lengths, but the main length you want is 1¼ inch. If you have two pieces of 3/4 inch material, it's enough to go through both but not pop out the other side, and that will be the majority component for a screw that we're using in this build. And I don't plan on using any glue, so if you had to take it apart and move it somewhere else, you could do that relatively easily. It would be at least feasible. You need a drill. I got this drill at Walmart. It's a cordless drill. Works quite nice, along with some other outdoor components that use the same battery type. So I can charge the same battery for various different things. Some drill bits to pre-drill the holes so you don't split out the wood. You can use a table saw like the one I have behind me. But cutting full sheet material on a small table saw is extremely dangerous. I would recommend creating a jig or clamping some kind of straight edge to your material at that point, and using a circular saw. If you don't have a whole lot of tools, I would recommend a jigsaw for home use because it can do most of what the circular saw can. You can cut corners and curves. It has a 90-degree interface with the material, so you can come in from one edge and then come in from a different edge and meet up with a clean corner. This is the maple edge banding. This is the 2-inch strip that I plan to use for this project. It's a thin veneer of maple wood with adhesive on one side, and you take an iron or a heat gun and use it to melt the adhesive, and then it should stick right onto the edge of the plywood and MDF. So it will look like natural wood on the edge, but you still get all the strength advantages of the plywood or whatever material you intend to use. You could just as easily purchase some black or gray or multicolor oil-based paint and just paint the edge to cover the plywood edge or the MDF. Medium density fiberboard, which is the large brown sheet that you see behind me, or whatever material you use. These are wood stains. There's all different colors of wood stains. I have black and white, and I'm going to try to make a gray. Go with a gray stain on the top of the table and the edges that are going to be the maple edge banding, and probably go with the black underneath as I assemble it. After you put the stain on, wipe the stain off, and let it dry a bit. You're going to want to apply some form of clear coat. For the top of the table, after it gets stained and once it's basically fully assembled in my dining room, but what I'm doing on this job is I'm going to go with the tabletop epoxy. So this is 2 1 gallons of a 2-part epoxy that's specifically designed for tables and bars. It's supposed to leave about 1/8 of an inch of material. Um, it should be just about enough for a 4x8 sheet of anything. The latter half of this project is going to take place in the dining room for the sake of ease of assembly and most of the finishing process. I'm going to get started. First, I'm going to cut the 5-inch strips out of this piece of MDF that's under this cloth. Should make up most of one sheet, and I'm also going to shave down the Douglas fir legs as needed. Maybe about a week ago, I was jointing one of those Douglas fir legs to shave the edges down, and I repositioned my hand right into the jointer blades and shaved about 1/8 inch off the tip of my pinky. Um, bled pretty bad. Just kept gushing blood. Put pressure on it, and then kept it bandaged up for a few days. And some Neosporin, hoping it would maybe grow back a little bit, but I think I lost the tip of my pinky. I don't know if it's all going to come back. Part of my fingernail is flat. Could have been worse. I should have been paying better attention. Ironically, it was a red Douglas fir legs. It's healing up quite well. I don't think it will be too permanent. Maybe just a little bit flat on the tip. We'll see what a couple years does. I had some time to think after that. I got on the web and ordered these 1/4 inch brackets. They're not welded the whole way around though, like I would have thought. They're actually just spot welded on the ends and on the corner here. But it is 1/4 inch, and I don't think it's gonna break off. Quite sturdy. I got 8 of them. I'm only planning on using 4. and they were pretty expensive. And I also bought some metal. I went to Surplus City, got 2 8-foot pieces of 1/4 inch by 1.5 inch by 3 inch C-channel. So they're behind me here. What I did was I cut off the ends. And then I bolted the ends the other way around onto the edges. And it's all about 1/4 inch from the frame here. So I didn't really film any of that because, well, grinding the slag off of the metal, or whatever you call that stuff on the edge of the metal, prepping it for painting. I painted it with a black hammer finish. It looks quite nice. And I got the boards ripped. You saw I got those boards ripped, and I screwed them in quite well. And after I screwed them in, I flipped it around and I put the fence on it, clamped the fence to the table, and took a circular saw and cleaned everything flush so that the edge banding fits on there nice. I did take a lot of the end grain off in the process, but I'm going to put some aluminum strips on the end to cover that up. And lengthwise, it actually was quite clean underneath, so it should match up with the edge banding. I took a router and put a chamfer on it, a light chamfer, so that when the edge banding goes on, it should go on. It's lined up well. It should match up with the bottom, and I shouldn't have to trim it if I can get it on straight enough. And I put a black stain on the bottom face, not the whole bottom, just the flat face on the bottom. And I've yet to put a clear coat on that, but I might put 1 or 2 clear coats on before I flip it around. And here's what I have figured out for the legs now. So this is 2 legs. I'm going to cut it in half then. So we have that 1/4 inch wrap around all the metal here. And what I'm thinking, I might add another 4 inches of MDF here, but essentially the table is going to sit on the legs, which sits on the middle of the table, and it'll actually want to bow out rather than bow in the middle. And depending on how much material I add in here. And whenever I have it just about straight, or a little bit bowed out, but just about straight, I'm going to essentially pin it in place with these corner brackets. Just about 1/4 inch right there, and that'll come from the back, and we'll have about 1 inch and 1/4 here before it enters the wood, but it'll be a real nice 2 to 3 inch, 2.5 inch profile. Straight legs coming out of it, very strong in both directions. I was going to leave these on the edges, but I had the extra material because I went with a 4 by 8 foot sheet to start with. Why I like those dimensions. And because I brought these in a little bit, will also resist warping in the Z-axis here. But I want it straight on top. I want to be able to put a big meal on it and not have it bend in half. This should do it.